I trusted her with everything. My goals. My secrets. My heart. I thought she was my best friend, until she destroyed my $1 million business right in front of me, out of jealousy. I didn't see the storm coming. At first, everything looked perfect. My name is Lisa, and I've always believed in helping people, especially my best friend, Carissa. We met in high school, and since then, we've been like sisters. Everyone called us the twins, even though we looked nothing alike. I was the talkative one, the big dreamer. She was quiet, always watching, always smiling. I trusted her with everything. I mean it, everything. When I started my first business, a small online clothing store, she was the first person I told. I remember calling her, my hands shaking with excitement, saying, "Carissa, I did it. I finally launched it." She screamed through the phone, "I'm so proud of you, Lisa." That night, we celebrated with cheap pizza and laughter on the floor of my one-bedroom apartment. She hugged me and said, "One day, you'll be a millionaire." I smiled, not knowing how close that would come true, or how that same girl would one day destroy everything I worked for. But back then, I didn't know. I thought she was my safe place. As my business grew, so did my excitement. I shared every little win with her. "Carissa, I just got my first big order." "Carissa, I'm making enough to quit my job." "Carissa, I got invited to speak at a business event." She always smiled, but now that I think about it, the smile never reached her eyes. I ignored the signs. Sometimes when I talked about my wins, her voice would change. She'd suddenly say, "Must be nice," or "Wish I had luck like you." But I'd laugh it off. I thought she was just being playful. I was wrong. She wanted what I had. Not just the money, the attention, the success, the way people looked at me, even the way men looked at me. One time, we went to a networking event together. I introduced her to everyone. "This is my best friend, Carissa. We've been together since high school." They smiled at her, but they talked to me. They asked for my card. They followed me on Instagram. They took selfies with me. I saw Carissa standing at the back, pretending to scroll through her phone. Later that night, she said, "You really know how to take over a room, huh?" I giggled. "It's just networking." She didn't laugh back. Another time, I introduced her to a man I was dating. His name was Brian. Tall, smart, charming. I really liked him. Maybe even loved him. Carissa smiled when she met him. She even joked, "He's a keeper, Lisa." I believed her. 2 weeks later, Brian stopped calling. I cried for days, confused. Then one of my coworkers told me she saw Carissa having lunch with him alone. I asked Carissa about it. Her voice didn't shake. "Oh, yeah, I saw him at the cafe. He just walked in. We talked a bit. Nothing serious." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something inside me whispered, "She's not telling the whole truth." Still, I pushed that thought away. I couldn't imagine my best friend would hurt me like that. I kept trusting her. I even made her a manager in my company. That's how much I believed in her. I wanted us to grow together. I wanted her to feel proud of herself, too. "Carissa, this is your office," I said, showing her the newly painted space. She hugged me. "You're too good to me." And I was. Too good. I gave her passwords. I gave her access. I gave her my life. Then things started going wrong. Orders weren't being fulfilled. Packages were missing. Clients were complaining. My Instagram page got hacked. My email stopped working. I stayed up nights trying to fix things. Meanwhile, Carissa kept saying, "Maybe someone's trying to bring you down." She was right. But it was her. I didn't know yet. But the pieces were falling apart, one by one. And she was the one pulling the strings. One night, I found a message on my business page. It was from a vendor. "Why is your assistant spreading lies about your company? She told me not to trust you." I froze. I read the message again. My assistant. I only had one manager, Carissa. I tried to call her. No answer. I sent a text. "We need to talk." She replied, "Busy. Maybe tomorrow." Tomorrow came. She didn't show up. I started to panic. My chest felt heavy. I went to the office. Her desk was empty. Her things gone. No note. No message. No warning. Just gone. I opened my laptop. Password changed. I checked the company bank account. Money missing. Backslash $237,000 gone. I couldn't breathe. I called the bank. I called my lawyer. I called my mom. No one could fix it. I was sinking. And the worst part, she blocked me. Everywhere. My best friend. My sister. The one I gave everything to. She disappeared with my money, my files, my business secrets, and my heart in pieces. But that was just the beginning. Because when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. I didn't leave my bed for 2 days. The curtains stayed closed. My phone stayed off. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, asking myself over and over again, how could she do this to me? I had trusted her like a sister. I loved her like family. I gave her everything. My home, my heart, my business. And now I had nothing. On the 3rd day, I finally dragged myself out of bed. My face looked like someone else's. Puffy eyes. Dry lips. Hair messy. I looked like a stranger. And inside, I felt like one too. But I had to move. I had to do something. My business was crashing, and I couldn't let all my hard work vanish just like that. I turned on my laptop and tried to log in again. Still locked out. I called my web developer. He answered with a concerned voice. Lisa? Are you okay? I've been trying to reach you. No, I whispered. I'm not okay. I told him everything. About Carissa. About the money. About the missing files. He sighed. Lisa, she's been changing passwords, blocking admin access, and sending strange emails to your suppliers. Some of them already canceled their partnerships with you. My heart dropped. She wasn't just stealing. She was destroying everything on purpose. But why? I asked, my voice cracking. What did I do to her? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I already knew the answer. Jealousy. The kind that grows in the dark. The kind that smiles at your face but poisons your name behind your back. I called a meeting with the small team I had left. 3 people showed up. That was all. One of them, Angela, looked nervous. She kept looking at the floor. Angela, I said softly, is there something you want to tell me? She nodded. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me something that almost made me scream. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Messages from Carissa in a secret group chat. She was laughing about how easy it was to ruin me. She told them I was too soft and too trusting. She said she couldn't wait to watch me fall. She even wrote, let's see if Lisa's pretty face can save her now. Tears ran down my cheeks. Not just because of what she said, but because the other people in the chat, people I had hired, trained, paid bonuses to, were laughing with her. It wasn't just betrayal from one person. It was a group attack. Angela reached out and touched my hand. I left the group. I didn't agree with them. That's why I saved these. I knew you needed to see the truth. I hugged her tightly. She was the only one left who felt real. After she left, I sat alone again. But this time, something inside me changed. I wasn't going to let Carissa win. I wasn't going to sit back and let my name be dragged through the mud. I pulled out a notebook. I wrote 3 words at the top. Rebuild. Remember. Rise. ***. I wiped my tears and got to work. First, I called the police and filed a report. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theft. Next, I hired a cybersecurity expert to help me trace the digital footprints Carissa left behind. Then I spoke to a lawyer about suing her for fraud, identity theft, and breach of contract. Each step hurt. Each phone call made my stomach twist. But I kept going. One night, around 2 a.m., I got a call from a blocked number. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to answer. Hello, I said, my voice shaky. There was silence for a second. Then I heard her voice. Lisa. I froze. It was her. Carissa. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. What do you want? I asked, trying to keep my voice strong. She sighed. I didn't think it would go this far. I stayed quiet. I just wanted what you had, she said. I was tired of always being in your shadow. People always looked at you. They never saw me. Even when I tried to shine, they only saw Lisa. My hands were shaking. So you destroyed my life. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to prove I could be better than you. I swallowed hard. Well, congratulations. You broke me. I hope it was worth it. Silence. I'm sorry, she whispered. I miss you. I ended the call. No goodbye. No tears. Just silence. Because in that moment I knew one thing. Some people don't destroy you because they hate you. They destroy you because they hate themselves for not being you. And even though I was still broken, I had just taken the first step toward becoming whole again. The next morning I didn't cry. That surprised me. After everything, the betrayal, the lies, the stolen money, I thought I'd still be on the floor, shaking and broken. But instead, I felt something else. I felt fire. Not the kind that burns everything down, but the kind that builds you back up. The kind that starts small in your chest and grows with every breath you take. I stood in front of the mirror and stared at myself. My eyes were tired. My skin was pale. My lips were dry. But behind all of that, I saw something I hadn't seen in weeks. I saw me. The real me. Not the weak girl Carissa tried to destroy, but the woman who built a business from nothing. The woman who gave and still had more to give. The woman who was about to rise. I grabbed my notebook again. I turned to a fresh page. At the top I wrote, "The comeback." That was the new plan. Step 1, tell my side of the story. I went live on Instagram. My heart beat fast as I stared into the camera. "Hi everyone," I began, my voice a little shaky at first. "I've been quiet for a while, and I think it's time I explained why. I didn't say Carissa's name. I didn't throw dirt. I didn't cry. I just told the truth, that someone I trusted betrayed me, that my business had been hurt, that I was hurt, but that I wasn't giving up." I ended the video with this. "They tried to break me, but I'm still here, and I'm not done yet." That video got over 120,000 views in 3 days. Thousands of comments poured in. People shared their own betrayal stories. People said they were inspired. Some even offered help. And then something wild happened. An investor I'd met a year before, someone who had once passed on working with me, sent me a message. "Lisa, I saw your video. I believe in second chances. Let's talk." I blinked at the screen. Was this really happening? I called him. His name was Mr. Hawkins, an older man with a deep voice and a calm way of speaking. "I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs," he said, "but the ones who survive storms, those are the ones worth betting on." We talked for over an hour. He asked about my business plan, my recovery plan, and how much I'd lost. When I told him everything, he said, "I'll give you a loan. Not a gift. A loan. But it's enough to get you back on your feet. Do we have a deal?" I almost said yes right away. But something stopped me. I asked, "Why are you really helping me?" He chuckled. "Because you remind me of my daughter. She got betrayed by her business partner too. Took her years to recover. But she did. And now she runs one of the biggest companies in Chicago. You've got that same fight in your eyes." I didn't cry on the call. But when I hung up, I dropped the phone and cried like a baby. Not because I was broken, but because I had hope again. Step 2, rebuild the brand. With the loan, I hired a small team, this time carefully chosen. I made contracts. I set up systems. I put every security wall in place. Angela became my right hand. We rebranded the store. New name. New website. New energy. I called it Phoenix Line. Because like a phoenix, I was rising from the ashes. Orders began to come in again, slowly at first, then faster. Customers who had left returned when they saw I was back. Old followers shared my story. New ones joined every day. Step 3, deal with Carissa. I had almost forgotten about her. But one evening, as I was leaving the office, my lawyer called. "Lisa," he said, "we have a court date." Carissa responded to the lawsuit. My chest tightened. What did she say? She's denying everything. Of course she was. She wants to meet with you before the hearing. She says she wants to talk. I paused. Is that allowed? Yes, but only if you want to. I didn't answer right away. What would I even say to her? What more was left? But something inside me whispered, go. Not for her. For closure. 2 days later, I walked into a quiet little cafe with my lawyer beside me. Carissa was already there. She wore sunglasses, but I could still see her eyes. She looked thinner, paler, nervous. I sat down across from her. She opened her mouth, but I spoke first. No lies. No drama. Just say what you came to say. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't think it would end like this. You stole from me, I said. You tried to ruin me. And now you want to say sorry. I was jealous, she said, her voice cracking. You had everything. I had nothing. I wanted to feel powerful for once. So you destroyed your best friend? She looked down. I hated how much I needed you. And I hated how easy everything came to you. I laughed. Not a happy laugh, a bitter one. Easy. Do you know how many nights I cried myself to sleep building that business? Do you know how many times I skipped meals to make payroll? She looked at me, tears filling her eyes. I know now, and I hate myself for it. I stood up. I don't need your hate. I needed your loyalty. I walked away without looking back. Some goodbyes don't need hugs. They just need closure. And I got mine. After that meeting, I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought seeing her again, hearing her say sorry would stir something in me. Maybe old memories. Maybe regret. Maybe forgiveness. But no. I felt nothing. Just a strange emptiness. Like a page in a book that had been torn out. That was the end of our story. And I was finally okay with that. The court hearing was still a few weeks away, and my lawyer said we had a strong case. The evidence was clear: bank transfers in her name, stolen emails, tampered client records. She had dug her own grave, and now she was trying to cover it with apologies. But I wasn't focused on the court. I was focused on me. My business was growing again. Slowly, yes, but honestly. And this time, it was built on stronger ground. I didn't let people in too easily anymore. That part of me had changed. Some days, I missed the old version of myself. The girl who trusted too much, loved too freely, believed the best in everyone. But that girl didn't survive the fire. The woman standing now. She had scars, but she had armor too. One evening, I was locking up the new office, a small but cozy place above a bookstore downtown, when I got a knock on the door. It was Angela. Sorry, she said, breathing a little fast. Do you have a minute? Of course, I said, stepping aside. She walked in, holding a brown envelope. What's that? She looked nervous. I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but I think you should know. She handed me the envelope. Inside were printed screenshots from another group chat. My stomach twisted as I started reading. This time it wasn't Carissa. It was someone else. Another team member I'd just hired. Someone I thought I could trust. They were mocking me, sharing private info, making fun of how emotional I'd been, talking about using the job just to gain inside contacts. I stared at the words. A wave of heat crawled up my neck. Not again. Not this again. Angela touched my arm. I didn't want to say anything at first, but I've seen this before. I didn't want you to get hurt again. I looked at her, eyes burning. Thank you, I said. Really? I called a meeting the next day. Fired the person on the spot. No drama. No shouting. Just quiet, clean, and final. After she left, the team sat in silence. I looked around the room and said, this business is more than a brand to me. It's my life. If you're here just to play games or take advantage of me, please leave now. No one moved. I continued. I've made mistakes before. I let people in too fast. I trusted wrong. But not anymore. If you're not here to build, then you don't belong here. One of the newer team members raised her hand. I want to say something, she said. I nodded. I joined this company because I saw your video. The one where you talked about your downfall. It made me cry. You were honest, brave, and real. I just want you to know, not everyone is here to hurt you. Her words sat with me for a while. Maybe not everyone would hurt me. Maybe I didn't have to lock my heart away forever. But I could be smart. I could be careful. And still be kind. That night, I went home and opened my laptop. I started typing something, not a business plan. Not a speech, but a story. My story. The one you're hearing now. Not just about what I lost, but about what I learned. I called it a betrayal that cost me everything. I poured my heart into it. Every tear. Every lesson. Every twist. Because I knew I wasn't the only one. I knew someone out there, maybe watching in the dark, feeling broken like I once was, needed to hear it. To know they're not alone. To know that even after the worst betrayal, You can rise again. You can heal. You can rebuild. And one day, you'll tell your story too. Not from a place of pain, but from a place of power. And when you do, the whole world will listen. I didn't plan for the story to go viral. I just wanted to speak my truth. Get it off my chest. Let the pain go and maybe help someone out there who felt like I once did. Lost, used, betrayed, and alone. But within 48 hours of posting it on my blog and social pages, it spread like wildfire. People from all over the country, even from other parts of the world, started sharing it. The messages poured in. Lisa, I'm going through the same thing. Your story made me cry. I needed to hear this today. Some even said, thank you for saving me. That line broke me. I never thought sharing my pain could help save someone else from theirs. And then the story reached the media. First, it was a local women's podcast. They invited me to come and speak. I said yes nervously. I'd never really told the full story out loud in front of a crowd. But I did. And the crowd didn't laugh. They didn't judge. They listened. They clapped. Some even cried. After that, other shows started calling. Then a women's magazine. Then a big online news platform. I was shocked. Me, the girl who lost everything. They wanted to hear from me. At first, it felt strange. Like the world had flipped upside down. Not too long ago, I was curled up in bed, feeling worthless. Now I was sitting in makeup chairs, doing interviews and getting questions like, what advice would you give to someone who's been betrayed? But the truth was, I didn't feel like a hero. I still had scars. I still had bad days. Sometimes I'd hear a song we used to dance to, and I'd tear up. Sometimes I'd see something online that reminded me of the old days, the laughs, the sleepovers, the secrets, and I'd feel a pinch in my chest. Because even if I moved on, the memories were still there. But I was learning how to live with them, how to carry them without letting them carry me. One evening, I was standing on a stage at a Women in Business Summit, looking out at a crowd of over 300 women. Some were young, some were old, some were just like me, dreamers who had been crushed but weren't ready to give up. I held the mic close and said, I used to think betrayal was the end of my story, but now I know it was just the middle. And if you're here today, broken and confused, wondering how to take the next step, let me be the proof that you can. You will rise. The applause was thunderous. And that night, when I returned to my hotel room, I sat alone for a while. I didn't cry. I smiled, because something inside me had finally clicked. Carissa didn't win. She thought taking my money, my business, and my peace would break me. But all she did was push me into the woman I was always meant to become. A woman who knew how to protect her heart. A woman who had learned that love without boundaries is dangerous. A woman who knew how to build, fall, rise, and build again. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself, thank you for the pain, because it showed me my strength. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a message from an old friend I hadn't heard from in years, Jenna. * Lisa. I just saw your video. I'm so proud of you. Can we talk? I've got something to share, and it's big. I think it might change everything. * I blinked. Change everything. What did she mean? Was this good news? Or was something else about to start? I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I typed back. * Sure. I'm free tomorrow. Let's talk. * I didn't know what was coming. But I knew one thing. Whatever it was, I was ready. The next day, I sat at a quiet cafe by the window, staring out at the cars passing by. My heart was doing that soft, fast beat again, not because I was scared, but because I was curious. I hadn't seen Jenna in nearly 5 years. We were close back in college. She was the calm to my storm, always neat, always planning ahead, always smiling in a gentle way that made people feel safe. But after graduation, life took us in different directions. I focused on building my brand. She went into finance, and we slowly drifted apart. Until now. I looked at the time on my phone, 2:12 p.m. She said she'd be here by 2. Then the door swung open. There she was. Same soft smile. Same tidy brown hair pulled into a ponytail. She walked toward me, and without a word, we hugged. A long, tight hug. You look amazing, she said, pulling back. Even better than the last time I saw you. I laughed. You too. Though, I've been through a whole storm since then. She nodded gently. I know. I saw your story. That's actually why I reached out. She sat down and placed a neat black folder on the table. I've been following your rise, she said. And your fall. And your rise again. And I want to help you go even higher. I raised my eyebrows. How? She opened the folder. Inside were pages. Plans, diagrams, charts. What is this? I asked. She smiled. An expansion idea. Lisa, your brand, Phoenix line, it's strong. But it can be bigger. I work with investors now. Quiet ones. The kind that don't like noise, but they love results. And they've seen what you can do. I flipped through the pages, confused but impressed. Are you saying you want me to pitch to them? She leaned forward. No. I'm saying I already did. I blinked. What? She smiled. I've been talking about you to them for months. But after your recent press, your talks, your new store, they're convinced. They want to invest. My hand froze on the page. They want to invest. I asked slowly. She nodded. $10 million. I almost dropped the folder. 10 million. 10 million. I swallowed hard. Jenna, are you serious? As serious as ever. But there's one condition. Here it comes, I thought. There will be a board. They'll want to say in the major moves. You'll still lead it, of course. But it'll come with structure. Growth. A full media team. Retail stores in 5 cities. A mentorship program for young female entrepreneurs. I leaned back, stunned. All the dreams I'd scribbled in my notebooks, whispered to myself in the dark, prayed for in silence, they were suddenly within reach. But something held me back. It wasn't fear. It was memory. The last time I trusted too quickly, it nearly destroyed me. Jenna must have read my thoughts. I'm not Carissa, she said gently. And these investors aren't vultures. You'll have a lawyer. We'll go step by step. No shortcuts. Full control. Full transparency. I nodded slowly. This wasn't like before. This wasn't a friend asking for trust. This was a professional offering a ladder to something greater, with rules, contracts, and protection. Still, I needed to be sure. I want time to think, I said. Of course, she replied. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. We parted with another hug. This one lighter, but just as warm. As I walked home, the wind brushed against my face. The sky was cloudy but calm. I thought about everything. The pain. The betrayal. The climb back up. And now this. A second chance. No. A greater chance. When I got home, I opened my window and sat on the ledge with my tea. I looked out at the sky and whispered, $10 million, wow. Then my phone buzzed. Another message. But this time it wasn't Jenna. It was a name I hadn't seen in a long time. Brian. Yes, that Brian. The man I once loved. The man who vanished after meeting Carissa. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Asterisk, hey Lisa. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. But I need to talk to you. Please. Just once. It's about what really happened. Asterisk. What really happened? I felt my hands tremble slightly. After all this time, why now? I placed the phone down and stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. This day had started with promises. Now it felt like doors, all kinds of doors, were opening at once. And I didn't know which one I was ready to walk through. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, phone on my chest, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Brian's message kept replaying in my mind. Asterisk, it's about what really happened. Asterisk. Those words twisted something inside me. I had buried that chapter of my life deep. The confusion, the heartbreak, the silence. After he vanished, I had cried for days. Carissa was there, holding me, telling me he wasn't good for me anyway. And I believed her. But now everything felt like it had been a lie. What did he mean, what really happened? Brian. A name I had buried. A chapter one had closed without proper punctuation. And yet, here it was again, like a ghost knocking softly, asking for permission to haunt me one more time. The logical part of me, the part that had rebuilt my company from ruins, that had sat across from investors and turned pain into power, told me to ignore him. But the human part of me, the one still trying to make sense of the betrayal, whispered something different. What if there's more to the story? What if Carissa wasn't the only one playing you? Or what if she wasn't the only one lying? I picked up my phone and read the message again. I could feel my heart beating louder with every second. I started typing a reply, then erased it. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally, I just wrote, *, where and when? *. His reply came almost immediately. *, tomorrow. Anywhere you choose. *. I stared at those words for a long time before texting back. * 3 p.m. The old garden behind St. Clair Library. *. It was a quiet spot, hidden, peaceful, with a small fountain in the center. It used to be my thinking place when I needed to breathe. Nobody ever went there. It felt safe, private, and if I was going to open a locked door, I wanted it to be there. The next day, I wore something simple, jeans, sneakers, a white blouse. No makeup, no glam, just me. I arrived 5 minutes early. The air smelled like fresh leaves and soft flowers. The birds chirped like nothing in the world had gone wrong. I sat on the bench by the fountain, gripping the strap of my bag tightly, staring at the path. Then I saw him, Brian, walking slowly, head down, hands in his jacket pockets. He looked older. Not in a bad way, just more serious, more real. His hair was a little longer. His beard had grown out. When he saw me, he stopped, then walked over. We both stood there for a moment. "Hi, Lisa," he said softly. "Hi." We sat down, a space between us. He let out a long breath. "I didn't know how to reach you all these years. I didn't know if you'd even want to see me." I stayed quiet. He continued. "I want to explain. About why I disappeared. About Carissa." At her name, my fingers curled slightly. "I know she was your best friend," he said. "And I know what happened now. But back then, I didn't know who to trust." I turned to him. "You ghosted me, Brian. No goodbye. No text. Nothing. You left me confused and heartbroken. I know. And I'm sorry. But it wasn't because I didn't care." "Then why?" He looked down. "Carissa told me something. She said you were using me. That you were only dating me to get close to my father's business connections. She said you laughed behind my back. She even showed me fake screenshots of messages she claimed were from your group chat. She manipulated everything. She showed me fake texts. Then she started showing up at my place, saying she was trying to comfort me. I didn't realize what was happening until it was too late." My jaw dropped. "What?" He nodded. "She said you were playing a long game, acting sweet but planning to drop me once you had what you needed. That your business came first and everything else was fake." I stared at him in disbelief. "She told you all that, and you believed her?" He looked ashamed. "I was young, insecure, and she was convincing. I didn't know you two had issues. I thought she was just looking out for me. I didn't realize she was jealous or obsessed." I shook my head. "She poisoned everything," I whispered. "Every relationship, every opportunity. And then she smiled while doing it." "I see that now," Brian said. "But back then I didn't. I panicked. I thought I was being played. And instead of asking you, I ran." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "You hurt me," I said. "Deeply. I know. And I regret it every day. But I'm not here to fix the past. I just wanted to tell you the truth. You deserve that." We sat in silence again, for a long time. Then he asked quietly, "Are you okay now?" I nodded. "Yes. I'm healing. Slowly. But I'm stronger now." He smiled faintly. "I can see that. You're shining, Lisa. Even after everything." I looked away, blinking quickly. "I don't know if we'll ever be friends again," I said honestly. "I'm not even sure how I feel about all this." "I understand," he replied. "I don't expect anything. I just needed to tell you." He stood up. "I hope life gives you everything you deserve. You've earned it." And with that, he turned and walked away. I sat there, the fountain bubbling softly beside me, my chest heavy but my heart lighter. That door, that old, painful door, had finally closed. I pulled out my phone and opened Jenna's folder again. $10 million. 5 cities. New beginnings. New risks. New chances. And this time, I would walk through the right door. Eyes open. Heart guarded. But hope alive. Because this was no longer just a comeback, it was the beginning of a legacy. The boardroom was cold, not just from the air conditioning, though it was definitely blasting, but from the way the people inside sat, upright, stiff and quiet. I stood by the glass door for a second, breathing in deeply, then stepped inside. This was it, the big meeting Jenna had prepared me for. 6 people sat at the long table, 5 men, 1 woman, all dressed sharp and expressionless. Beside them, at the far end, was Jenna. She gave me a calm nod, like a lighthouse in a sea of sharks. "Lisa Thompson," one of the men said, flipping through my pitch deck. "We've heard a lot about you." I smiled politely. "Thank you for having me." He didn't smile back. It didn't bother me. I wasn't here to charm them. I was here to build. The presentation began. I spoke clearly, confidently, walking them through the new Phoenix line, the numbers, the rebrand, the social media traction, the loyalty I had built with my audience. I showed them the recovery graph, the vendor contracts, the press coverage, the growth rate. Then I paused. I looked each of them in the eye and said, "I didn't come here to beg. I came to build. I've already built something from the ashes. Now I'm here to scale it into something untouchable." Still no smiles, but I noticed their pens stopped moving. They were listening now. One of them, a woman with silver hair and striking eyes, leaned forward. "What makes you think another betrayal won't destroy you again?" The question cut, but I was ready. I looked at her and said, "Because I don't trust blindly anymore. I trust smartly. I have contracts now, systems, security layers. But more than that, I have scars. And scars don't make you weak. They make you alert." Silence. Then she smiled just a little. After the meeting, Jenna and I stepped outside into the parking lot. "Well?" I asked, unsure. "They're impressed," she said. "They won't say it out loud yet, but trust me, they saw your fire." I exhaled deeply and looked up at the sky. It was cloudy but no rain. Just calm. That night, I got a call from an unknown number again. For a second, I didn't want to answer, but my gut said to. I picked up. "Lisa Thompson?" the voice asked. "Yes. This is Detective Monroe from the New York Financial Crimes Unit. We'd like to speak with you regarding a woman named Carissa Miller." My body froze. I swallowed. "What about her?" "She's currently being investigated for multiple cases of financial fraud and digital impersonation. Your name came up. We'd like to ask a few questions." I sat down. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'm listening." Over the next 2 weeks, everything moved fast. I gave a full statement, provided all the files, messages, screenshots, even the ones Angela had saved. Detective Monroe nodded through it all. "You're not the only victim," he said. Apparently, Carissa hadn't stopped with me. She had used my contacts to scam others, small business owners, influencers, even a retired school teacher who had sent her money for a fake online coaching course. I felt sick hearing it. How could someone I once laughed with, cried with, loved like family turn into this? One part of me wanted to look away. Another part wanted justice. The law was catching up to her, slowly but surely. But even if they didn't catch her today or tomorrow, I wasn't the same Lisa anymore. I no longer needed revenge. I had something better. Peace, power, purpose. And now, I had choices. 3 days after the meeting, Jenna sent me a message. "They're in. Full investment. Full backing. Congrats, CEO." I dropped my phone and let out a scream. Not from fear. Not from pain. From joy. From triumph. From arrival. This was what it meant to win. Not just money. Not just attention. But to rise after they buried you. To build after they broke you. To breathe freely again. We launched the first major Phoenix line campaign 1 month later. Made from Fire, it was called. And the face of the campaign, me. Not out of vanity, but out of truth. I was no longer hiding. No longer dimming my light for people afraid of their own shadows. As the billboard went up in Times Square, I stood beneath it with Jenna and Angela beside me. I looked up at my own face and whispered to myself, "You didn't just survive, Lisa. You became." I took a deep breath. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message. Unknown number asterisk. Asterisk, "You think it's over, Lisa. But it's not. You took everything from me. And now, I'm coming back. Asterisk. My blood ran cold. No name. No hint. But I knew that voice. I knew it in my bones. Carissa. Again. But this time, she wasn't coming for the same girl she betrayed. She was coming for someone stronger. And I was ready. I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I was afraid, but because I wasn't. That surprised me. The old Lisa, the one who cried on her bathroom floor when everything fell apart, would have panicked. She would have turned off her phone, canceled meetings, called Jenna in a frenzy, asked a dozen people what to do. But not this Lisa. This Lisa knew better. I took a screenshot of the message, saved it in a folder labeled Threats, Evidence, and forwarded it straight to Detective Monroe with a short note. Looks like she's trying again. Just thought you'd want this. Then I put my phone down and walked into my closet to finish picking an outfit for my Good Morning America interview. Because life doesn't stop when someone threatens your peace, especially not someone who already tried and failed to break you. The interview went beautifully. We spoke about the betrayal, the bounce back, the business, and the birth of a new movement, a mentorship program I was building for young women called Phoenix Rising. The host leaned in during the final part and asked, "If Carissa is watching right now, what would you say to her?" I paused, then looked right into the camera. I would say thank you. Because you didn't destroy me, you built the woman I am now. You made me smarter, braver, tougher. And the truth is, I don't need revenge. I'm too busy building legacies. The crowd clapped. Behind the scenes, Jenna hugged me tight. "You handled that like a queen," she whispered. But the truth was, I still felt something deep in my chest. Not fear. Not hate. Just readiness. Because I knew Carissa wasn't done. People like her don't just vanish. They circle back when they think the smoke is cleared. When they think you've lowered your guard. When they think you're comfortable. But comfort isn't my weakness anymore. It's my weapon. Because I work in comfort now, but I survive in chaos. A few days later, Angela came into my office holding a letter. "From the front desk," she said. "No name, just your name written in red ink." My eyebrows furrowed. I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a single page with handwriting I recognized too well. It read, "You think your new empire can't burn? I built it with you once. I know where the cracks are. Watch closely." No name. No signature. But I could almost hear her voice saying it. "Carissa." Again. Angela leaned over and whispered, "Should we get security involved?" "Already did," I said. "The building's cameras, the entry logs. Everything is being monitored. She can send letters, but she won't get close." Angela nodded, but I saw the worry in her eyes. "I'm not scared," I told her. And I meant it, because I finally realized something powerful. Carissa's greatest weapon wasn't her lies or her tricks. It was the element of surprise. But now I expected her, and that made me unstoppable. 1 week later, something strange happened. A new intern, quiet, shy, and barely 20, brought me a USB drive. Said it was left anonymously in the mailbox, no note attached. We scanned it with antivirus software first, then opened it carefully on a clean device. What we found shocked us. Emails, screenshots, voice notes, ***, conversations between Carissa and a former Phoenix Line vendor, a man who had mysteriously pulled out of our early deal months ago. They were planning something. Sabotage, legal traps, fake scandals, even trying to frame me for tax fraud. But the drive wasn't just filled with planning. It also had cancellation messages. Carissa threatening the vendor when he tried to pull out. Him begging her to stop. It ended with one short voice note from him. "You said we were just going to scare her. I didn't sign up for this. I'm done. I'm deleting your number after this message." Jenna and I sat in silence as the audio ended. "Well," she said finally, "looks like your old friend is getting sloppy." I nodded. "She's spiraling. And when they spiral," Jenna added, "they fall." We forwarded everything to Detective Monroe. He replied within the hour. "That's what we needed. Expect a big update soon." 3 days later, Carissa was arrested. Right in the middle of a luxury hotel lobby in Miami. The news hit all the platforms. Influencer imposter arrested for fraud and cybercrimes, over $1.6 million in damages. The photo they used, A grainy security cam shot of her being cuffed in leggings, messy bun, and sunglasses too big for her face. The headlines had one word in common: betrayal. I didn't post anything that day. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate, because betrayal isn't something you clap for when it ends. It's something you walk past, head high, eyes forward. And that's what I did. The next day, I opened my office windows and let the sunlight pour in. I brewed tea, sat by the glass, and picked up my journal. I flipped past the pages filled with pain, past the words about scars and fire and survival, and I started a new page. At the top I wrote, "This isn't a revenge story. This is a resurrection." Then I wrote, "And I'm just getting started." That evening, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I turned off my phone, not because I was hiding, but because I finally felt free. No threats buzzing my screen. No updates from lawyers or reporters. No shadows from the past chasing me. Just peace. Real peace. I curled up on the couch with a blanket and a warm cup of tea, looking out the window at the quiet street below. It had just rained. The road was shiny and still. The city lights reflected in puddles like melted gold. And for the first time in what felt like years, I allowed myself to breathe. Not just small, careful breaths, but deep, full ones that stretched all the way down into my soul. My story was no longer about loss. It was about power, about becoming the kind of woman no storm could drown. 2 weeks later, I was invited to speak at a major international business summit for women entrepreneurs. It was being held in Paris. I almost said no. I still wasn't used to being the person people wanted to fly in, to interview, to put on stage. But Jenna looked me dead in the eye and said, "You've earned this. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you you belong." So I went, and Paris was everything I never knew I needed. The soft language, the lights, the energy of bold women from all over the world, women who had clawed their way out of quiet hells, just like me. When I stepped on stage, wearing a long black suit dress and gold earrings shaped like rising flames, I looked out at the crowd and saw myself in so many faces. Not my reflection, but my journey. I stood there in silence for a moment. Then I said, "There's a kind of pain that doesn't just break you, it remakes you. It strips you down and asks you, who are you without all you thought you had? And when you finally answer that question, when you find that person underneath the ashes, you become unstoppable." They didn't clap at first. They just stared. And then, the entire room stood. The applause felt like thunder. But what moved me the most? The silence before the applause. Because it meant they heard me. They felt me. After the speech, I walked off stage and was met by a woman in her late 60s. She wore a sharp cream-colored blazer and carried herself like someone who owned entire buildings. She took my hand and said, "I've been in boardrooms for 30 years. That was the first time I wanted to cry during a keynote." I smiled. "Thank you." Then she handed me a card. It had just one name on it. No title, no company logo. "Call me," she said. "You're not done yet." When I got back to my hotel, I opened the balcony doors and stepped outside. The Eiffel Tower stood in the distance, glowing like a promise. I wrapped a shawl around my shoulders and sat with my journal again. This time, I didn't write about pain or revenge. I wrote about purpose. I wrote about legacy. I wrote about all the women who would come after me, who might one day find themselves betrayed, broken, buried, and rise anyway. And I made myself a new vow. I will not just rebuild what was taken from me. I will build something so unshakable they won't know where to strike. I will build for the girl I used to be, and for the woman I'm still becoming. Just before I went to bed, I checked my messages. Not from paranoia, but from instinct. A new email had come in. It was an email from one of the world's biggest streaming platforms. Subject line: "Your story deserves to be told. Docuseries opportunity." I blinked. Read it twice. They wanted to feature me. My story. My comeback. My rise. And suddenly, it all made sense. The betrayal. The fall. The silence. The storm. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something so much bigger. Because I wasn't just a woman who lost everything. I was a woman who turned ashes into light. And I knew this was only the middle of the story. And the best part, I was the one writing the rest. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was restless, but because I was alive. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't lying in bed haunted by regrets or replaying the betrayal in my head like a broken record. This time, my mind was racing with ideas, possibilities, visions, plans, a docuseries opportunity from one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world. Was I dreaming? I sat at the edge of the hotel bed, phone still in hand, staring at the email. It was from a producer named Simone Gray. Her name sounded familiar, so I Googled her. And there it was. She had produced some of the biggest docuseries on global platforms, gripping true-life stories about survival, reinvention, and redemption. Women from war-torn zones, former gang members, CEOs who lost it all and climbed back. And now me? I reread her message. Lisa, your story is one the world needs. I've followed your journey since the first blog post after your betrayal went viral. You represent something bigger than business. You represent what it means to be rebuilt. Asterisk, let's talk. We'd like you to be the face of our new docuseries. After the fire. Asterisk. Simone. I clutched the phone to my chest and just smiled. A deep, quiet smile. Because I realized something in that moment. I hadn't just survived the fire. I had become the story people would gather around. The next day, we had the Zoom call. Simone was warm, sharp, and clear. This is not a gossip doc, she said. This isn't about dragging Carissa or pointing fingers. This is about you, your journey, your rise, your wisdom, and how other people, especially women, can take your pain and build something greater from it. I nodded. Then I'm in. I didn't even blink. I didn't need time to think about it. This was part of the purpose, the calling, the next chapter. She explained the next steps, interviews, storyboarding, location scouting. And then she asked, "Is there anything you don't want us to include?" I paused, because for the first time, I had control over my own story in a way I never had before. "No," I said finally. "Tell it all. The pain, the mistakes, the blind trust, and the fight. If I'm going to help someone with a story, it has to be real." Simone smiled. "You're stronger than most people I've met." "I had no choice," I replied. Within 3 weeks, the team flew to New York to film the first round of interviews. I stood on the rooftop of my new office building, Phoenix Line HQ, in a clean white pantsuit with gold cuffs. The wind was soft. The sky was orange. And the director called out, "Rolling." They asked me about everything. My childhood, my first business, my friendship with Carissa, the betrayal, the fallout, the fight back, the sleepless nights, the days I couldn't eat, the first time I smiled again. They even brought in Angela for a segment. She spoke about the moment she saw the screenshots and knew she had to come forward. She was hurting, Angela said, but she was too strong to stay broken. When I heard her say that in playback, I wiped away a single tear. Because it was true. I had been hurting, but I had refused to stay broken. 2 months later, they surprised me with something during the final shoot. They brought in a group of women. Not actors, not extras, real women. Women who had written me emails over the past year. Women from all over the country, even from outside the U.S. They stood in a circle around me. Each one shared a sentence. One said, "I left a toxic marriage after watching your story." Another said, "I finally launched my fashion brand. You gave me courage." Another whispered, "I was thinking of ending it all until your story reminded me that I could still rise." And that was it. That was the moment. Not the viral video. Not the boardroom deal. Not even the docuseries offer. That moment. Hearing real lives that had been touched because I chose not to stay silent, because I chose to turn my pain into light. That was everything. I didn't cry. Not then. I just stood still and whispered, "Thank you, God. I see it now." All of it had purpose. The docuseries premiered 6 months later. I was sitting with my team, my mom, Jenna, Angela, and a few close friends in a private screening room. The lights dimmed. The title came up. After the Fire, the Lisa Thompson story. As my voice came through the speakers, I felt like I was outside my body. Hearing myself talk about betrayal, failure, loneliness, and loss, but also about grit, healing, and the unstoppable beauty of rebuilding. It felt like watching a stranger I admired. Because I did admire her. I admired me. The woman who wasn't supposed to rise, but did. The girl who was left behind, but caught up. The name they tried to destroy, but now filled rooms with standing ovations. After the screening, people lined up to talk to me. Not as fans, not as followers, but as women like me. Survivors, builders, dreamers. I looked each one in the eye and told them the truth. You are not broken. You are becoming. And in that moment, I finally knew backslash. The betrayal didn't cost me everything. It gave me something I never knew I needed. A voice that reaches far beyond pain. A story that will outlive my scars. And a legacy written not in shame, but in fire. The morning after the premiere, I woke up to an inbox flooded with messages. Some were from women. Some were from men. Some from teenagers. Some from people well into their 60s. From Nigeria, from London, from small villages I'd never even heard of. And all of them said the same thing in different ways. You told my story. Now I know I'm not alone. I thought I had lost everything, but you showed me I can start again. I sat at the edge of my bed in silence. Not even tears this time. Just awe. This was bigger than I ever imagined. My pain, once so private, so quiet, so buried, had become a lighthouse. And people were swimming toward it. A few days later, I got a call from Simone. They want to renew it, she said. Renew what? I asked, still a little foggy from reading through hundreds of messages overnight. The docuseries. They want a second season. I blinked. But my story's been told. She laughed gently. Lisa, people don't just want to hear what happened to you. They want to walk with you now. What's next? How do you grow from here? Who are you becoming? What are you building? I let that sit for a moment. She was right. I hadn't reached the top of the mountain. I just found a new trail. So we started filming again. But this time, it wasn't about betrayal. It was about becoming. Cameras followed us as we launched new projects under Phoenix Rising, mentorship programs in underserved communities, grants for single mothers starting businesses, a podcast called After the Fire that featured real stories of healing and rebuilding. I traveled to places I never thought I'd go, speaking at schools in rural towns, sitting with women in recovery centers, partnering with tech hubs in Nairobi and Accra to teach financial literacy and digital skills. And everywhere I went, someone would quietly walk up and say, I watched your story. And I would smile and say, now let's write yours. One day, as I stood in front of a packed crowd at a conference in Cape Town, I shared something I had never said out loud before. I used to think my story ended the day I lost everything. But I was wrong. That was the day my real story began. Because betrayal doesn't end you. It reveals you. It peels away all the noise until only the truth remains, and you either run from it or rise with it. That speech was later turned into a short film. It won awards, but more importantly, it opened more doors. Publishing houses reached out. One of them said, Lisa, your story belongs on bookshelves, in libraries, in classrooms. I signed the deal 6 weeks later. The title, Built from the Fire, the story they tried to bury. One night, months later, I was sitting alone in my home office, a small, quiet space filled with books, candles, and old vision boards, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Angela. She had just given birth. She sent a picture of her baby girl. Her message read, Meet Hope. I named her after what I found while working with you. I stared at that picture for a long time. Little Hope, eyes closed, wrapped in a yellow blanket. So new, so soft, so full of tomorrow. And it hit me then. The fire didn't destroy me. It refined me. It gave me new eyes, new voice, new meaning. And now, everything I do, every stage I step on, every girl I mentor, every business I help lift, is part of a chain reaction that started the day someone tried to break me. That's the thing about fire. It can burn, but in the right hands, it can also light the world. That night, I stood at my window watching the stars. No cameras, no script, just me. And for the first time in years, I whispered a new sentence to myself, one I hadn't dared to believe until now. You didn't just survive, Lisa. You won. And somehow, I knew it was only the beginning. Months passed, and with each one, My life kept unfolding in ways I could never have imagined. Phoenix Line expanded into 3 more countries. Our mentorship program had over 20,000 young women enrolled across the globe. The book, it became a bestseller in less than 2 weeks, translated into 14 languages. But it wasn't the numbers that moved me. It was the people. Like the 12-year-old girl from Brazil who wrote a letter saying she started selling handmade bracelets because my story taught her not to wait for permission. Or the woman from India who said she left an abusive marriage, holding my book to her chest as she boarded the bus to her freedom. Or the young man from Atlanta who had been in prison and told me that after the fire reminded him that he was more than his worst day. They made me realize something I had been slow to accept. I was no longer just Lisa. I was a symbol now, not of perfection, not of success, but of resilience. One morning, I got a call from my mother. Her voice was soft and proud. "Baby," she said, "I saw your face on a billboard again, right next to the city hall. You looked so strong." I smiled. "Thanks, Mom." Then her voice dropped into something deeper. "You know, there was a time I was worried you wouldn't make it out of that dark place." "I remember," I whispered. "I prayed," she continued, "every night, that God wouldn't just save you, but send you. You were always meant to be more than what happened to you." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Thank you," I said, "for not giving up on me when I almost did." She chuckled. "You always had a little fire in you. I just never knew it'd light the whole world." Later that evening, as I walked into the Phoenix Line headquarters, my assistant ran up with a package. "No return name," she said, "but it's been checked. Safe to open." I took it to my office and carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a small black box, and a letter, typed, plain font, no name, but the words. I recognized the tone. Asterisk, I watched the series. I read the book. I saw the interviews. And for a long time, I wanted to hate you for how strong you became. But now, I understand. You became what I couldn't. I won't bother you again. You don't owe me anything. I just wanted you to know I see you now. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Asterisk. No signature. But I didn't need one. It was Carissa. Inside the black box was a silver bracelet I had given her the night I launched my first business. The one she wore in all the early pictures. The one I thought she had thrown away. I stared at it for a long time. Not angry. Not sad. Just still. Because the past no longer had power over me. It had become a museum. I could visit it. Learn from it. But I no longer lived there. I placed the bracelet on my shelf, beside my first vision board, beside the award from the documentary, beside a tiny paper note that read, "You are not broken. You are becoming." Sometime later, I was invited to speak at the United Nations. They were hosting a global summit on women, leadership, and post-trauma rebuilding. As I stepped up to the podium in front of world leaders, dignitaries, and activists from every corner of the globe, I smiled softly. Not out of nerves, but out of memory. Because the girl who once cried alone on her bathroom floor was now teaching the world how to rise. I took a breath and spoke. Pain is a fire, but fire doesn't just destroy. In the right hands, it purifies. In the right heart, it awakens purpose. I was betrayed, but I wasn't buried. I was broken, but I wasn't done. You see, I didn't just walk through the fire. I learned how to build with it. And now, I light the way for others. They rose to their feet, not for the speech, not for the clothes, not for the titles, but for the truth. The raw, burning, powerful truth. That no matter what they took from me, I turned it into something greater. And the fire, the one they tried to use to destroy me, that fire lives in me now. Not to burn, but to shine. The sun was just beginning to rise. Soft gold streaks stretched across the sky like promises whispered through the clouds. I stood alone on the balcony of my countryside home, a place I bought recently, not for luxury, but for quiet, for reflection, for moments like this. In my hands, I held a copy of my book, Built from the Fire. The spine was worn now, not from overuse, but from travel. It had been in my bag across continents, shared in workshops, highlighted in classrooms, passed from one trembling hand to another. On the inside cover was a note I wrote to myself months ago. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose to become afterward. I closed the book and looked out at the quiet hills ahead. No sirens, no emails, no cameras, just breath, and sky, and peace. Angela was now leading her own mentorship branch. Jenna had joined a global network of women VCs, investing in female-led startups across Africa and Southeast Asia. The Phoenix Rising podcast had just crossed 1 million downloads. And me? I had finally learned how to be okay without noise, to be proud without proving, to be present without performing, to be whole without needing to be heard. As I stepped back inside, my phone buzzed. Just once. A single message. From a new mentee I'd never met. Thank you for telling your story. Because of you, I finally started writing mine. I smiled. Not the kind of smile that pulls headlines. Not the kind that sells books or wins interviews. Just a quiet, satisfied one, the kind that says, you did what you were sent here to do. I placed the phone down, walked to the kitchen, made tea. No fear, no rush, no shadows, just the quiet strength of a woman who had walked through fire and came out with wings. And as the kettle sang and the light poured in through the windows, I whispered to myself, one last time. I didn't lose everything. I found everything that mattered. Then I breathed in deep, and finally, I rested. Thank you for listening to this story. Though it was told in first person, please note, it is a fictional story, inspired by real-life experiences shared with someone close to the Spesh Stories community. The names, events, places, and details have been changed for storytelling purposes. But the emotions, the lessons, they're very real. If this story moved you in any way, please take a moment to subscribe to Spesh Stories right here on YouTube. We share powerful stories like this, full of pain, hope, growth, and healing. Because sometimes the stories we tell are the mirrors we all need. Thanks again for watching. And until next time, stay strong and keep becoming.